Good afternoon. Dr. Pelayo, can you hear us? Are we working?
Yeah, hi guys.
Wonderful, wonderful. Here we are. Okay, we're going to talk about sleep. We just heard Dr. Joshi talk about the importance of sleep, and Dr. Rafael Pelayo is a professor from Stanford as well. I don't have my notes with his bio, but trust me, he is part of the sleep disorders. He's a sleep disorders expert and really correlates the need for sleep and mental health. So we're so glad that he was able to join us, and then he'll continue on. And right after this, we'll have our panel. So go ahead and feel free to send your questions, and we're ready to roll. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm Rafael Pelayo. I'm a professor at Stanford. I'm actually from New York City, so I tend to talk very fast. So I was actually asked to prepare a 30-minute talk, but now I've asked to cut it down to 10 minutes. Not a problem. I can talk fast. But I want to be clear. I think the real issue is, are we prioritizing sleep? Is sleep a priority, and how this affects these issues? And I'll talk to you a little bit about this topic. Just a few general comments about sleeping, and we'll get to it. First off, know that your life is reflected in your sleep. Sleep's reflected in your life. It goes in both directions. The international symbol for sleep medicine is that yin and yang symbol. Now, sleep is the most powerful natural form of self-care that we have. If we didn't have to do it, we wouldn't do it. And again, you got to think a little bit about why do we bother sleeping and what's the role in our youth, specifically on this topic. I can share with you that I've had 4 people in my life who died by suicide. So this is a deeply important topic for me. When I found out that there was a chance to speak at your conference, I jumped at the opportunity. Fortunately, I had to give a lecture. I'm already scheduled to give another lecture tomorrow out of town, so I couldn't be with you in person, but I appreciate that the organizers set this up via Zoom. Dealing with teenagers, I've been talking to teenagers about sleep since the 1980s. And to talk in their language, you got to think a little bit about how cell phones work. And I always want you to take a think a little bit. How do you feel when your cell phone is half charged, right? What happens when you leave your home and your cell phone is half charged? The rest of the day, you're looking for a charger. Your phone works just fine at half charge, but you know that it's not working at its full potential. If somebody dares to call you, you wonder whether you want to use up your battery. And sleep is similar. You can get by with less sleep, and teenagers soon learn they can get by with less sleep, but they're not at their full potential. What does this mean in reality? Well, it's customary to say that we don't know why we sleep, but that's no longer true. The functions with an S of sleep are now becoming more clear. Sleep definitely has something to do with cognitive function. We sleep to help us learn. Sleeping is strongly tied to learning, but also it's restorative. It gets us back to energy balance, macromolecule biosynthesis, metabolic waste. And sleep also seems to set our moods, and it really much has a role in our moods. In fact, there isn't a single mood disorder that does not have a sleep component to it. So we sleep to help us learn. We have to adapt to the outside environment. I train as a child neurologist, and I'm faculty in the Department of Psychiatry. And I like it that way. Because in sleep, we don't separate the mind from the brain. The need for sleep is biological, but the way you sleep is learned. Sleeping is a learned behavior. It's a lot like food. All newborn babies will drink milk of some type, but 5-year-olds or 15-year-olds throughout the planet have different diets depending on where they live. The need for food is biological. What you eat is cultural. Sleep's the same way. So you have to understand a person's culture in order to help them sleep better. Even though I stand before you as a sleep expert, the reason people come to see us is not because of how they're sleeping in reality. It's how they feel when they're awake, which they attribute to their sleep. So we always have to think about how they're sleeping. You should never wake up tired. If you or the young people in your life say they wake up tired, no matter how much sleep they get, that's a hard stop. You should never be waking up tired. You don't leave restaurants feeling hungry. You should not be getting out of bed feeling tired. That makes no biological sense. All of you hopefully have memories of being young children and jumping out of bed on vacation, looking forward to starting your day. You should not wake up tired. You shouldn't snore, by the way, either. There should also not be any doubt that sleep impacts behavior. And the sleep disorders mimic a lot of attention and learning issues. I just like these marmosets. I want to get some. I mean, they're so cute. The reason I'm showing you this is because marmosets change their sleep patterns when they go through puberty, just like our teenagers do. And the marmosets are not online. They don't have cell phones. They change the biology with puberty. And our kids do the same thing. There's a natural tendency for them to go to bed later. I'm talking about in general. And this is balanced by a tendency for older folks to go to sleep earlier. And that makes sense for the safety of an overall tribe. We can get more into these later if you like during the panel. But most teens are night owls. And there's the data. You can see US, average teen goes to bed around close to midnight. The outlier, by the way, South Korea, which we'll talk to you about brief in a moment. When we look at how we talk about sleep, there's different kinds of sleep. There's a light sleep, intermediate sleep, and a deep sleep. We refer to these as stage 1, 2, and 3. There's also dreaming sleep, REM sleep, which dominates the last third of the night. There are a lot of misconceptions about sleep. One of them is that we sleep through the night. None of you has ever slept through the night in reality. All humans wake up several times a night. But every hour or two, we wake up, make sure everything's okay, and we go back to sleep. Just watch anybody sleep. Visit your local sleep lab. You'll see everybody wakes up several times a night. You just don't remember waking up. Now, dreams dominate the last third of the night. So when you are waking up somebody early, you're not just sleep depriving them, you specifically dream depriving them. And it's a platitude. We say to teenagers all the time, we want you to follow your dreams. But we cut off the ability to dream with the schedules we impose on them. And this has ramifications. Insufficient sleep is connected to several problems, including mental and behavioral health problems, including depression, anxiety disorders, substance abuse, things you already are familiar with, including suicide. There's data on this. Most teenagers are sleep deprived. This is a study from Korea. And there, they look for the tendency to sleep in more than 2 hours on weekends. Sleeping in more than 2 hours on weekends, along with only getting 7 hours or less of sleep and excessive sleepiness, higher incidence of suicidal thinking and behavior. And by the way, the incidence of suicide in South Korea is higher than the US. It's an oversimplification to say that people are doing these suicidal behavior, suicidal thinking based on depression. Certainly depression plays a role, but lack of sleep by itself is an independent risk factor for suicidal thinking. And I'll show you this study here. The meta-analysis, over 500,000 participants found that there is this issue. One of the things I've been working on is delaying school start times. And you may know that this is the year that California, the first state in the nation, will have a law specifically to protect teenagers and their need for sleep. The sponsor of the bill, Senator Portantino from California, what got him interested in this topic was specifically that his brother had died by suicide. And that's why he got involved in this issue of teenage sleep. It took us 3 years to get the law passed. And what seemed to sway them at the end of Sacramento was the data on mental health. That was the overarching, I think, theme that got people to change their votes from no to yes. And we finally got the law passed. How does sleep involve in suicidal thinking and behavior? I think it's explained by this study with fMRI. All humans, when we don't get enough sleep, it means something is wrong. And the brain's reaction, if something is wrong, is to avoid sleeping. And also, when you're not getting enough sleep, the brain starts to take risks. Sleep deprivation fMRI data shows that the poor sleep exaggerates the normative imbalance between control systems and leads to greater risk-taking behavior. All of us are descendants of risk takers. People who didn't take risks did not pass on the DNA. When you don't get enough sleep, we become more impulsive in our behavior. When people don't get enough sleep, they tend to be irritable, and they tend to be inattentive and impulsive. And if you know people in your life who are irritable, inattentive, and impulsive, odds are they're not getting enough sleep. And some of the horrible tragedies that occurred in the Bay Area, some of them were very impulsive behaviors. Misconceptions about sleep dominate. You cannot catch up 5 days of lack of sleep in a 2-day weekend. Biologically, it's not possible to do that. Our circadian system does not allow us to do that. We don't do this with food. We don't tell teenagers, hey, Monday through Friday, I'm going to starve you. eat all you like Monday, Saturday, and Sunday, because come Monday, I'm going to starve you again. That's what we do to the kids. The other misconception is that people fall asleep because they're bored. Any of you who are getting drowsy right now, it's not my fault. Monotony does not cause sleepiness. Monotony will unmask your sleepiness. Because when you're in a monotonous environment, it means you're safe. And if you're sleep deprived in a safe environment, you'll catch up on that need for sleep. So I always want you to think a little bit about is the motivation that you have and the kids in our lives have, not only to go to sleep, but to get out of bed. What motivates you to get out of bed? For some of the people that we know, they have no specific interest in getting out of bed. It doesn't matter to them if they get to school on time. There are 4 variables that predict our sleep schedules. And it's been spell the word self. If you talk to people who have sleep problems, they often say things like, if I'm lucky, I'll get 5 hours. If I'm lucky. Whenever they use the word luck, they're implying it's out of their control. And if things are out of your control, you're potentially in danger. You should avoid sleeping, and the vicious cycle will continue. Approach that I take is this is a mnemonic that I created, an acronym that I use. Self, put you back in control. These 4 variables, if you do them at the same time every day, social interactions, exercise, light, and food, if you get these at the same time every day, your sleep-wake schedule will self-regulate. Those of you who are working with teenagers, and there's some teenagers in the audience, I believe, if they go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, their last meal is not at 6 p.m. They're eating late into the night also, and they're skipping breakfast. We can change this if somebody is motivated to do this. And also, more importantly, for the person who's suffering with these sleep problems, that they understand how their brain works. Because we can manipulate these variables to control anybody's sleep schedule. So with that, I know time is short. So I want to let you know that we want our teenagers to get a full night of sleep and fully recharge their brains and enjoy their lives and be happier people. Some resources I put up here for you. I don't have any conflict of interest with this topic, but I am a volunteer in different organizations. I volunteer with Start School Later, National Sleep Foundation, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, and I have a book out if anybody's interested called How to Sleep. It goes more into these details. And with that, I look forward to joining your panel. Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, thank you.